सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। स्वरेण सन्धयेत् योगम् अस्वरं भावयेत् परम् अस्वरेणानुसन्धेन भावो वा भाव इष्यते। So at the seat of meditation, what is the preparation to be done for the mind? And after having prepared the mind, how the mind has to be fixed upon the self, upon the truth. This technique is given. So yesterday we were seeing the example of pole vault. So how that pole vaulter, he makes use of the pole to gain the height, and once the height is gained, he drops the pole. In the same way, first you have to take the support of the mind, and after having purified the mind, then you have to drop the mind. So how to purify the mind? Take the support. Support of what? Support of Omkara. What does Omkara represent? It represents the Supreme Lord. Shabda Brahma or Saguna Brahma it is called. So here you invoke the grace of the Lord. You invoke the relationship with the Lord. Thus you develop devotion, respect, reverence, love, etc. for the Lord. This cannot be done in Nirguna Upasana. It has to be done only through Saguna Upasana. Saguna means Saguna, with properties. So what are the properties of the Supreme Lord? He is omniscient, omnipotent, loving, caring, guiding. These aspects of the Lord has to be meditated upon. Then the mind becomes pure. This purity is absolutely essential in the higher meditations. So just like that pole vaulter cannot drop the pole in the beginning itself, he has to drop the pole in the end. In the same way, first you have to make use of the mind. And after having made use of the mind, after having purified the heart, and then you have to do the higher meditation, and that is witnessing the mind. So yesterday we were seeing how to witness the mind. The clue was given, mind is nothing but flow of thoughts. And these thoughts are divided into two. What are they? Aham vritti and idam vritti. I thought and this thought. So what do we find? What is the relationship between them? This thought comes out of I thought. Idam vritti originates from I thought. So therefore, what should the meditator do? He need not try to destroy the idam vritti. He need to destroy only the aham vritti. So here is this consciousness. The aham vritti is very, very close to consciousness, because aham vritti is the one which is defining myself. Who am I actually? I am pure consciousness, but now I think myself to be this BMI. Remember that identification theory. Consciousness identified with BMI is called as ego. It is also called as ahankaraha. It's a technical term. Ahankara is a technical term. What does ahankara say? Upadhishu aham iti karoti iti ahankaraha. The one who identifies with the upadhis, the instruments. What are the instruments? Body, mind, intellect. So how does ahankara takes birth? Ahankara cannot take birth merely by BMI. Ahankara cannot take birth merely by consciousness. Ahankara takes birth only when consciousness identifies with BMI. The self identified with BMI is called as ahankara. That itself is called as aham vritti. That itself is called as ego. Right? So now at the seat of meditation, I am trying to abide in consciousness. Very near to consciousness is what? Aham vritti, because it is the definition of myself. Aham vritti is near, which is further away? Idam vritti, this thought, something other than me, that is further away. So when you are witnessing, if your aham vritti has become a part of consciousness, then witnessing can destroy only the idam vritti. Right? If the mind is not sufficiently pure enough, you will not see a separation between consciousness and aham vritti. Both appear to be same. Both appear to be one. That is why the initial preparation is very, very essential. Surrendering unto the Lord. The first stage in spirituality is not soham, it is dasoham. O Lord, I am your dasa. The first step is not soham. If the seeker in the beginning starts meditating upon soham, what will happen? Saha aham. He will think this aham vritti itself as consciousness, which is wrong. Aham vritti is limited. It is finite. That finite thing can never become infinite. So what is the first stage? First stage is surrender. First stage is humility. So then what happens? This aham vritti weakens down. And moreover, as the purification becomes more and more, you start seeing a difference, you start seeing a distance between pure consciousness and aham vritti. It is something like using a magnifying lens. There is one dot, and you think that there is only one dot. But the moment you start seeing it with a magnifying lens, what do you see? There are so many dots separated with a distance. Now, what is that magnifying lens? It is the pure mind. Purer the mind, greater the distance you see between consciousness and aham vritti. And once you start seeing the distance, then you are able to abide in consciousness and witness aham vritti. And what happens when the aham vritti is witnessed? Vritti is a thought. Any thought when witnessed has to die down. So the moment you abide in consciousness and start witnessing this aham vritti, what happens to the aham vritti? It falls down. Aham vritti falling down means all your wrong notions about yourself going away. Then what remains is only pure consciousness. You experience yourself as full, as complete, as perfect, as infinite, as immortal, supreme Brahman. So here the verse used is bhavo va bhava ishyate. The bhava becomes abhava. That which was existing earlier becomes non-existent, and that which was non-existent earlier becomes existent. What becomes non-existent? The ego becomes non-existent. What becomes existent? The Supreme Self becomes existent. Now, here becomes existent doesn't mean it was non-existent earlier. It only means it was existent, but I was not able to perceive it. It was covered. The pure consciousness was covered by aham vritti, therefore it was not available for perception. Once the aham vritti falls, the real I shines forth as aham. So the vision of God should be in what way? So Ramana Maharshi says, Isha jivayo veshadhibhida satsvabhavato vastu kevalam veshahanatah swatmadarshanam Isha darshanam swatmarupatah. When this wonder happens, Isha darshanam swa atmarupatah. The vision of God. What is the vision of God? You start seeing that God as your own self. To put in Mahavakya, aham brahma asmi. You are not seeing God as an object. You are seeing God as the very subject in you, as yourself, as a very consciousness in you. Now a doubt can come. In Puranas, etc., we find devotees having vision of God. Like for example, Dhruva, he had the vision of God. Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, etc. Vishnu came in front of him. Whereas here it is said, the self has to be experienced as oneself. The truth has to be experienced as oneself. Whereas in Puranas we find God coming as a person, coming as an object, different from the subject. Which one is true? So then we have to understand that vision which is described in the Purana, no doubt it is a vision born out of a pure mind, but it is not absolute vision. Why it is not absolute vision? Truth is defined as that which ever exists. Now in every Puranic story you will find the devotee worshipping the Lord. Lord comes, blesses and goes. That which comes and goes cannot be the reality. Simple. This aspect we will be discussing in more detail little later. That which comes and goes cannot be the reality. That which is permanent, ever existing, alone has to be the reality. So ultimate vision is the vision as oneself. But there are some devotees who say, "Oh Lord, I don't want your vision as oneself. I want your sweet vision with Shankha, Chakra, etc." So when the devotees compel the Lord out of love, so that Supreme Lord, just to please his devotees, take a form and comes in front. It is just to please the devotee. Why? It is because Bhagavan says, Aham bhakta paradhinaha. I am a slave of my devotee. So if the devotee wants to see me in a particular form, fine, I have no objection. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to say, just like under the effect of intense cold, the formless water takes the form of ice, in the same way, under the influence of intense devotion, that infinite Lord takes the form of a finite form. It is just to please the devotee. So therefore you will find a Rama Bhakta seeing only Rama's form, a Krishna Bhakta seeing only Krishna's form, a Jesus Bhakta will see not Rama or Krishna, but he will see only Jesus. What you meditate, how you have trained your mind, that vision only you will have. Meaning what? Whatever vision you have, it is a function dependent on the mind. How you have trained the mind, that you see. Meaning what? What you see is nothing but your mind. But the truth is beyond mind. Are you getting the logic? So the stories in the Puranas, they all contain all such descriptions of vision of God, but we have to understand that ultimate vision has to be the vision of one's own self. Isha darshanam swa atma rupataha. Isha darshanam, atma darshanam itself is Isha darshanam. So this is what is said in 8th and 9th verse. Tadeva nishkalam brahma nirvikalpam niranjanam tad brahma aham. This is the point. That Brahman which is nishkalam, nirvikalpam, niranjanam, dhruvam, anantam, anadim, aprameyam. All these are different descriptions of that Brahman. We had seen how many descriptions? 15 different descriptions we have seen. There are very many descriptions. So here some few are listed out. It is partless, nishkalam. Why? Infinite cannot have parts. It is partless. It is nirvikalpam, without any difference or without any thoughts. Vikalpa also means thoughts. It is beyond all kinds of imaginations. Niranjanam, it is pure. Or it can be defined in a different way. This Supreme Brahman is free from the Sthula, Sukshma and Karana Sharira. Sthula Sharira is represented by Brahman is different from Sthula Shariram. That is represented by the word Nishkalam. You will see the commentary. Guruji has defined that way. This Supreme Brahman is free from the gross body, the subtle body and the causal body, because it has no body only. That Supreme Brahman is Dhruvam. The term we had discussed was Nityaha, eternal. Then Anantam, infinite. Aprameyam, immeasurable. That which cannot be made as an object, being the very subject. Anadim, beginningless. What happens to a person who experiences this truth? Yet jnatva buddhaha muchyate. Such a person becomes free. So what is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of life? The purpose of life is to know this. In short, the purpose of life is to know oneself. The purpose of life is not to change the world or to improve the world. What is the purpose of life? Improve oneself. World is perfect, because world is taken care by a supreme, infinite, omniscient Lord. Let us not bother about or worry about perfection of the world. How many politicians are corrupt? How to improve this world? The whole world is going for dogs. You don't have to worry about all that. The Lord, whenever He needed, just by the wink of an eye, He can create Mahatmas like that. Great warriors like that. They have been created in the past. They are being created in the present. In the future also, at the right time, He Himself will come as avatar and set everything right. What is our job? Our job is to see that I have improved. Remember, the world is a hospital. Who comes to hospital? Who comes to hospital? Only patient, sick people come to hospital. Correct? Now, if you come to hospital and say, I don't know why, all are sick people only here. This hospital is meant for sick people. Healthy people need not come here. In the same way, this world is meant for whom? People who have impure minds, people who are bound. Those who are liberated, they have gone. They need not come back. So then coming to this world and seeing imperfection, this world is meant for imperfect people. So you will find all imperfections everywhere. There will be crooks, there will be cheats. A time will come, these people who are crooks, etc., a time will come when they will suffer because of their action, and through their suffering, they will be taken in the right direction. That you leave it to God. How do we learn lessons in life? Isn't it by committing mistakes? Is there anyone who learns lessons without committing mistakes? Have you seen any child walking straight from the mother's womb? How many times a child has to fall before learning the simple act of walking? It is the same thing with all aspects in life. You commit mistake, you learn, you evolve. So therefore the world has been provided to us to commit mistakes. Isn't it? So all kinds of mistakes you will find people committing. Through their mistakes, they will reap the negative results, because of which they suffer, and through that suffering, they grow out of those mistakes. So therefore, when you read the newspaper, don't pollute the mind saying, my God, what is happening to this world? Everything is perfect in this world. Understand this. Everything is perfect. Because a supreme perfect Lord is taking care of everything. If there is someone who is imperfect, that is you. So don't try to change others. Just focus upon changing oneself. And as you transform yourself, you will find those who are near you, the near and dear ones around you, will automatically be transformed when you are transformed. If you yourself you are peaceless, disturbed, what will you give others? You will give only disturbance to others. If you have peace, if you have right understanding, then what will you give others? You will give peace to others. What you have, that you give to others. So what is the first responsibility in life? Let me be peaceful. Let me become knowledgeable. Let me become wise. Right. So therefore, the purpose of life is to know oneself. And once this person realizes this great truth, what is the experience? Na nirodha na cha utpattihi na baddha na cha sadhakaha. He comes to know that I was never bound in the first place. It was only my wrong notion in the mind. Consciousness was never bound. It was only an identification with the BMI. Identification is mental. It is a wrong notion. So what has this wise man done to become wise? He has not done anything. He has only removed the wrong notion of the mind. Now this point is made very clear with a story, a beautiful story, which Swami Vivekananda used to like it very much. And I am sure you must have heard this story. The point, the lesson is important. So what is that story? So there was this shepherd who used to take his sheep for grazing to the forest. So then one day what happened? He saw a small lion cub. The mother was dead. This lion cub was roaming here and there helplessly crying. So this shepherd, he felt pity for that little one. So he took that lion cub and started rearing it. So he used to give the milk and all that. And so every day when he used to go for go to the forest for the sheep to graze, he used to take this lion cub also. Now who is the role model for the lion cub? Sheep. So the lion cub used to look at sheep, and then whatever the elder brother does, the younger brother also does the same thing. So now this lion cub, it learnt everything, whatever the sheep does. What does the sheep do? They eat grass. The lion cub also started eating grass. The sheep bleat, making that sound. Lion cub also started learning how to bleat. So slowly over the years what happened? This lion cub grew to become a huge lion with all sheepish qualities. Right? Now we will call this lion a sheepish lion. Fine. One day what happened? A wild lion entered into the forest. Wild lion with a roar. And the moment the sheep, they listened to this roar, all the sheep ran away, helter-skelter. This sheepish lion also started running. And now when this wild lion saw, fine, sheep running, he could understand. But a lion running, he could not understand. So instead of chasing the sheep, he chased that sheepish lion, caught hold of him by the collar. He said, "Why are you running? You are also a lion like me." Now this sheepish lion, just like any other sheep, it was trembling, it was bleating and saying, "Please don't kill me, spare me, don't eat me, kill me," and all that. Now this wild lion was really disturbed. "What are you doing? You are a shame to our community. You are also a lion like me. You must roar." No. See, I am eating grass. What does it mean? I am a sheep. See, I am able to bleat. What does it mean? I am a sheep. See, I am not able to roar like you. What does it mean? I am a sheep. Just like we. Fine, this lion was fed up. Hetu drishtanta varjitam. So he got hold of him, then went to nearby pond. "Now look at your face." He looked, reflection. "Now look at my face. Is there not a similarity?" He understood. Yes. Now you understand. You are also a lion. Now come on, roar like me. Gave another huge roar. So first few attempts, this sheepish lion was not able to do. And slowly, but over a period of time, he was able to roar like that wild lion. And then after that, he lived like a lion and walked fearlessly in the forest. This is the story. Now don't ask whether this really happened or not. Don't become a historian. You're not interested in the reality. The message is what is important. Who is this sheepish lion? Don't look at each other. We ourselves. Okay. You are a lion, but now you are living like a sheep. That consciousness which is infinite and immortal, now that infinite being is behaving like a finite, stupid being. That is called a sheepish lion. Has something happened? Nothing has happened. It is only a wrong notion. What is this sheepish lion having? It has not become a sheep. It is lion only, but there was a wrong notion which it had gathered, that I am not a lion, I am a sheep. And over a period of time, again and again, entertaining that wrong thought that I am a sheep, I am a sheep, I am a sheep. Now, that wrong notion has become so strong that it appears to be a reality. In the same way, now we have continuously, in all our transaction, what is the basic fundamental knowledge? I am this body. And then you transact. So every transaction, what is it doing? Your ignorance is becoming thicker and thicker with every transaction in the world without the knowledge. And remember, this has been happening over so many births together. Billions of births. So now this thought has become so strong that it appears as though it is very real, that I am this body. A thought, how much ever powerful it may be, it is only a thought which can be destroyed. So this wild lion comes. Who is this wild lion? He is the Satguru. Sadguru. So he gives this Upadesha. You are not a sheep, you are a lion. This fellow, will he understand? He won't understand. So whenever the Sadguru gives this Upadesha, most of us we say the Guru has gone mad. Because in the society we see most of them as sheep only. So therefore we think majority is always right. The Guru is gone off. Gone mad. Isn't it? But very rare few, they see the logic and they follow the Guru to the pond. Now what is this pond? This pond is nothing but scriptures. In the pond what you do? You see your face. scriptures is called as Shastra Darpanam. Darpanam means mirror. In mirror, what do you see? You don't see the company of manufacturing and all that. You see yourself, isn't it? So in the scripture, you see the description of yourself. And when you see yourself, you come to know, Arey, the way I have thought about myself, it is wrong. I am something different. And then this wild lion gives a big roar. What is that roar? Mahavakya is the roar. Aham Brahmasmi is the roar. Tattvamasi. The Guru may keep roaring, but can I roar? No, because of so many years of wrong practices, wrong habitual thinking, I am not able to roar. I still keep bleating only. I am a man, I am a woman, I am limited, I am this, I am etc. But over a period of time, with practice, what happens? You are also able to roar. Right? Now this is a story. Now this story has a deep message. The message is that whether you believe it or not, whether you accept it or not, you are infinite, you are immortal. Even a mere intellectual understanding gives us so much of joy, isn't it? Living and all, fine, we will see it later. But even this understanding that we are unlimited, infinite, doesn't it give joy? Right. So this study of the scriptures, it has to be done again and again, again and again, again and again, so that this reality becomes our effortless knowledge. That knowledge should become wisdom. The information should become transformation. So once that, let us take the example of this lion. So earlier it was a sheepish lion, now it has become a normal lion. So what will it say? Na nirodha na cha utpattihi, na baddho na cha sadaka. I was never a sheep. I never became from sheep to lion. There was no transformation because I was always a lion. Isn't it? In the same way, the person who realizes the truth, what does he experience? I was never bound. Bondage was only notional. It was only in the mind, just like the dream. The whole dream, you falsify it the moment you wake up. You don't give any seriousness to it. In the same way, once you realize, once you wake up to this great truth, you come to know the everything, whatever you have experienced, it was nothing but a dream. Right. Now another important topic is taken up by the teacher. What is the important topic? So earlier we have seen bhavo va bhava ishyate. The non-existent become existent. Correct? The little I drops, the real I shines forth. The idam vritti drops, the real aham, the aham vritti drops, the real aham shines forth. Now the question is, what is the proof that this aham is real? It is possible that there is another aham which is real, more real than this aham. Now, these questions can be there. What is the proof that the present aham, not the aham vritti, but aham, I am, what is the proof that it is real? So now the next verse, what does the teacher say? Eka evatma mantavyah jagrat swapna sushuptishu sthanatraya vetityasya punarjanmana vidyate. Logic is given here. What is the logic? So there is a theorem in Vedanta. How to know whether something is real or not? The theorem is abadhyatvam satyatvam. If something is real, then it should never become absent. It should never go away. It should never be negated. It should never be falsified. Just few moments before we were seeing that which comes and goes cannot be real. That which remains ever, that alone is real. This is the definition of reality. Tri avasthasu, tri kaleshu, yat tishtati, tat sat. Definition. Tri kaleshu, in all the three periods periods of time, that which exists is truth. 3 avasthas, in all the 3 states, waking, dream and deep sleep. If there is something which is existing in all the 3 states, then that is definitely real. So what does the teacher say? This Atma is one and the same in Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Therefore it is real. Now see, in the waking world, you have the waking mind, you have the waking world around, and you have the waker's body, correct? When you enter into the dream, what happens? What is the process of entering into the dream? Can you bring this body into the dream? No. Can you bring this world into the dream? No. So in the dream what happens is, you disidentify with the waking body, then identify with the dream body. A separate body is given to you in the dream. If you want to roam around in the dream world, this body is useless. You are given a separate body, it is called as dream body. And then you are put in dream world. So what do? If you want to enter into dream world, disidentify with the waking body, identify with the dream body. Correct? Now remember, dream world cannot be brought into waking world. Waking world cannot be taken to dream world. The dreamer cannot be taken into waking world. The waking body also cannot be taken into dream world. They are exclusively separate. Nothing can come from this to this. Correct? Now, everything in the waking state is negated in the dream state. Everything in the dream state is negated in the deep sleep state. All the 3 states are totally independent. Yes or no? Yes. Nothing is common. Now here the Guru gives the hint. There is one thing which is common. And what is that common thing? I. Everything is different, but there is one common link, and that is Atma, which is nothing but consciousness. In the waking world, are you conscious or not? Yes, you are conscious of the world, you are conscious of yourself, you are conscious of so many experiences. You are conscious. In the dream state, are you conscious or not? You are conscious of the dream world, you are conscious of the experiences. Therefore, consciousness exists in the dream state also. See the commonality. In the deep sleep, is there consciousness? There is. How do you know? What is our experience in the deep sleep? I slept well, I knew nothing. Isn't it? I slept well. Isn't it an experience? Yes. If there has to be an experience, definitely there has to be an experiencer. If there has to be an experiencer, there has to be that experiencer who was conscious of the experience. What does it mean? In the light of consciousness, the experiencer experienced that particular experience that I slept well. An experience was going on. Somebody experienced it. If there has to be an experience, there has to be an experiencer. Meaning, the experiencer was conscious of the experience. What does it mean? Consciousness was present in the deep sleep also. So, consciousness is present in the waking state. Consciousness is present in the dream state. Consciousness was present in the deep sleep state. What does it mean? What is the common thread? Consciousness. And that consciousness is me. Because I was conscious. The very same I who saw the dream world is the very same I who am seeing the waking world. So therefore, once I wake up, I am able to remember what had happened in the dream world. In the dream, such and such thing had happened. How do you know? I was there. You see? The I who am explaining it to you, I was there in the dream world. What does it mean? This I is the common thread. Now what is the definition of truth? That which exists in all the 3 states is the truth. Now it has been proved that you were existing in all the three states. Therefore, you are the ultimate truth. Remember, you may not be existing as the ego in all the three states, but you as pure consciousness was existing. In the waking world, the ego is there. In the dream world, a different ego is there. In the deep sleep, the total, all the ego is gone. Egos may be different, but the experiencer, which is the pure consciousness, is the same. Aham vritti keeps on changing in three states, but aham, does it change? It doesn't change. Therefore, the Guru says, sthanatraya vyatitasya. This consciousness is sthanatraya vyatitaha, one who is beyond sthanatrayam. What are the sthanatrayam? Waking, dream and deep sleep. The one who has come to know himself as this pure consciousness, which is beyond the three states of the mind, punarjanmana vidyate. He becomes free from punarjanma. Punarjanma is only for the ego. He has gone beyond ego. He has destroyed the ego. He has now come to know himself as the pure consciousness. For him there is no birth and death. Is that logic clear? Abadhyatvam satyatvam. Right. Now the question is, fine, the consciousness in me was the same in waking, dream, deep sleep. But what is the proof that this consciousness is present as the same consciousness in someone else? Somebody else's consciousness may be different from my consciousness. How can you say this is the same consciousness? So therefore, the Guru gives another example. What does he say? Eka eva hi bhutatma bhute bhute vyavastitaha. The very same consciousness which is there in you, it is the very same consciousness in each and every being. Bhute bhute vyavastitaha. Ekadha bahudha chaiva. It is only one, but appears as many. How? Drishyate jalachandravat. An example is given. Jalachandravat. Just like the moon reflected in the water. So suppose in a bright moonlight day, you keep so many pots and fill it with water. So what do you see in each pot? You will see one moon in each pot, isn't it? Now if you say all these moons are different, isn't it foolishness? It is only one moon, but the reflections are many. In the same way, the very same consciousness is expressing itself through different body, mind, intellects. Here pot represents the body, the water in it represents the mind, intellect, also called as Sukshma Sharira. Physical body is called Sthula Sharira. Your thoughts, etc., it is called as Sukshma Sharira. So the pot represents the body, water represents the Sukshma Sharira, and what does moon represent? The pure consciousness. Now see that vision of Upanishads. What does the Upanishad say? All of us are one alone. Wherever there is vision of oneness, there is love, there is forgiveness, there is compassion. Yes or no? There is sacrifice. Wherever there is a vision of oneness, all the noble virtues automatically come. Now the beauty of Upanishad is, you can bring all religions also together. Now when we say consciousness, is there something called Hindu consciousness and Muslim consciousness? It is the same. So in the whole world, if there is one religion which can unite all religions, it is a religion of Vedanta. The ultimate. This is what Swami Vivekananda also said. If there can be one universal religion, it has to be Vedanta. Because here, all the differences merge. The moment you say Rama is God, Krishna is God, Allah is God, there will definitely be a fight. But if you say consciousness is God, consciousness is like space. Consciousness is like earth. It's like air, water. It has no religion. Isn't it? It can unify. all the differences of opinion go away. And look at the vision of our great rishis, munis. In the past, in the Indian culture, this knowledge was given at the very young age. In the Brahmacharya ashrama itself, this knowledge was given. Because it is essential. So in the Gurukula, these children were sent. How many years? 15, 20 years they have to remain in the Gurukula. Cut off from the parents. So in the Gurukula, there would be some saint, a sage, who would train them in this knowledge. So all of them had to go there, whether he be a king's son or a beggar's son, doesn't matter. All of them put in the same platform, and they were asked to serve the teacher. Serving each, they have to take the care of the ashram, etc. Taking care of the cows, cleaning the ashram, cooking food, everything these boys had to do. They were trained. They were trained to serve each other. And what was the knowledge given? This was the knowledge given. What is the knowledge? We are all one. External equipments, packing may be different. Body, mind, intellect is nothing but packing. It is a material. What is important is the content. As far as the content is concerned, we are all one. So somebody may be very strong, somebody may be weak. That is only the packing difference. Content is the same. Somebody may be highly intelligent, somebody may be dull. Doesn't matter. The content is the same. So then what happens? There is no jealousy. The moment packing becomes important and the content becomes immaterial, all problem starts. When you go to shop, what do you give importance to? Content or the packing? Content, isn't it? If you are thinking this way in everything else, what about yourself? The biggest blunder we have made is we give importance to our packing, not to the content. Suppose there is a vigraha, a murti of a rat made of gold, and there is another murti of Lord Sri Ramchandraji made of wood. Which one will you take? Which one will you take? Will you say, this is Ramchandraji made of wood? Huh? Will you take that? No. You see the content. How does it matter? Form. This is gold. Isn't it true? The same thing with us also. This knowledge, if it is given at a young age, that person will have no such negativities of the mind. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, etc. is when you give importance to the packing and not to the content. And just imagine what kind of education is being given now in the schools and colleges. The vision of plurality is given importance. What should be given importance? Vision of oneness should be given importance. We are all one. So therefore, when you hurt others, actually you are hurting yourself. See, all these values come here. Eka eva hi bhutatma bhute bhute vyavasthitaha. The very same consciousness, you yourself, you are existing in everyone. So don't harm others. What you must do? Love others, help others, serve others. The solution to all problem is right understanding at a young age. Once this right understanding is developed in the minds of small children, when they grow up, they become positive contributors to the society. All this terrorist mentality will not come. Yes or no? In the Vedic times, this was the knowledge given. That is why Gurukula was essential. Everyone had to send their children to Gurukula. And after 15-20 years of learning, when they come out, they have only love, they have only respect for everyone, they have only compassion. And that is why once upon a time Indians were great. India was the best country. It was a very hub of knowledge. That is why the name of the country, Bharata. Rata means to revel. Revel in what? Bha means light, light of knowledge. All great scientists were born in India. All great saints and sages were born in India. Knowledge used to come out from India to others. Which are the oldest universities? Nalanda and Takshashila. Great scholars from different countries used to come and learn from us. And remember, India never had this patenting system. This is our knowledge, we patent it. No. Give free to everyone. You learn and then you go back and spread this knowledge to others. What a large-heartedness. What a country. Each and everyone must be proud to be an Indian. Isn't it? And the beauty of this country is, in spite of being militarily powerful, economically rich, this country never attacked any other country. Have you ever seen India attacking somebody else for grabbing the land, etc.? Never. So this knowledge is there in the blood in each and every one of us. The only thing is, this Upanishadic knowledge has to be propagated, has to be given. Then there will be oneness, there won't be any problem. In Bhagavatam, if you read this Prahlada Charita, the teachings of Prahlad, so you know that story, Hiranyakashipu and all that. When Prahlada was sent to the Gurukula there, you know what kind of knowledge was given to them? Materialistic knowledge. Exactly the knowledge which today we are giving to our children. It is said, Dharma, Artha, Kama, that's it, no moksha. There is nothing called moksha for them. Fulfill your desires. That is the purpose of education. And then Prahlada laments. This vision of plurality will only create trouble. The vision of oneness is not given. The knowledge of the scripture is not given. Only materialistic knowledge. Why do we see so many problems in the society? All the problem is because this knowledge has been ignored. Bas. When spiritual knowledge is ignored, all problems come. Whatever way you try to solve it, it cannot be solved. You may try to pump in money into the society, it won't help. You may increase the comforts and luxuries, it will not help. And that's what we are seeing. All kinds of experimentations are going on. But there is no peace, there is no harmony. Even the religious leaders are fighting among themselves. What to talk of poor people? Isn't it? Now see this knowledge. Eka eva hi bhutatma bhute bhute vyavastitah. The very same Supreme Lord, as the very consciousness, is residing in each and every one of us. So once a person gains this knowledge, what is his understanding about himself? I am consciousness with an insignificant body. If you don't have this knowledge, what will be your understanding? I am body with consciousness. So what is given importance? Body is given importance. But the moment you gain this knowledge, what is given importance? Consciousness is given importance. I am eternal consciousness with an impermanent body. The body comes and goes, but I, the consciousness, remain. Focus is upon consciousness. What about he? He is also consciousness with an insignificant body. She is also consciousness with. So now see, there is oneness. That which is decaying and dying, no importance is given. So in such a society where everyone is seeing oneness, wherever there is oneness, there has to be love. Look at your own body. When you bite your tongue with your teeth, will you think of knocking down your teeth? No. Isn't it? No, the teeth has done a big mistake. I should break it down. No. Why? The tongue is also you. The teeth is also. There is oneness. See that? Wherever there is oneness, forgiveness becomes automatic, spontaneous. Now tell me, when did you bite your tongue last time? Do you remember? Perfect forgiveness is when you don't even remember when you have done it. That is perfect forgiveness. Otherwise you may remember, such and such day this fellow has done such and such thing to me. You don't even remember when you have bitten your tongue. What does it mean? Perfect forgiveness. Why that forgiveness has come? Because there is total oneness everywhere. Whenever any part of the body is in trouble, the other part goes to help, isn't it? If a thorn goes into the leg, the eyes immediately go there, the hands immediately go there. There is so much of harmony in the body. Why? Because there is oneness. The entire, each and every cell in this body is me. When that comes, love is automatic, forgiveness is automatic, service is automatic, everything naturally happens. But the understanding has to be right. That is why the importance of spiritual knowledge. Right. Now let us think a little more about this Jalachandravat example. So there is this moonlight, we'll call original moonlight. There is this pot in it, water is there, and there is this reflected moonlight. Original moonlight, reflected moonlight, right? Now, what is the understanding of this reflected moonlight? It thinks, I am born from the pot. As long as the pot exists, I exist. The moment the pot is broken, I am finished. Yes or no? See the misery of the reflected moonlight. I am not talking of original moonlight, I am talking of reflected moonlight. It is at the mercy of the water, it is at the mercy of the pot. Correct? It is bound. As long as the reflected moonlight, as far as the reflected moonlight is concerned, it is bound. It thinks its existence depends upon the pot and the water. But what is the fact? Who is the real source of this reflected moonlight? The real moon. Isn't it? Actually, the moonlight need not depend upon the pot, need not depend upon the water. Now, who is this reflected moonlight? It is nothing but the reflected consciousness or aham vritti. Comparison. And what is this original moonlight? It is aham. It doesn't depend upon the pot. Are you getting the link? As far as the reflected moonlight is concerned, reflection can be different in different pots. If the water is muddy, reflection is muddy. If the water is shaky, reflection is shaky. But what about the original moonlight? It is the same. In the same way, the aham vrittis in each and every one of us, the ego in each and every one of us may be different. BMIs are different. So naturally the reflected I is different. But what about the original I? It is the same. This is called as Pratibimbavada in Vedanta. It's a very common example taken. Pratibimbavada. Original consciousness, reflected consciousness. Now the consciousness which we are experiencing is called as reflected consciousness. And what is the reflecting medium? The mind is the reflecting medium. So as though it is original consciousness falling upon the mind-intellect equipment, and it is reflected. And now this reflected consciousness is what we are experiencing now. Not the original. Getting the point? In short, consciousness in each and every one of us is the same. Reflected consciousness can be different, but that is immaterial. Now earlier it has been said, Hetu Drishtanta Varjitam. No example can be given. But oh Guru, you are giving example here. Now this example has a limitation. What is the limitation? As long as moon is there, reflection is there. Now the moon can come and go, isn't it? Please understand, consciousness doesn't come and go. This is the limitation of the example. But let us take only that which matches with the concept of the self. Every example has limitations. Now don't say, moon will go in the morning. Then what about your reflection? Don't ask such questions. Every example has got limitations. Now tomorrow we will see what is death. Are you scared? Tomorrow we will discuss a little about death. What happens when a person dies? Because it is a related topic. It is not mentioned here. We will take a slight digression, finish it off, and then come back. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।